I'm Betsy Hull. Today we're going to be deciphering nonprofit financial puzzle pieces. If you feel like this woman when you hear the word financials or 990 or audit, hopefully after today's 10-minute talk, you'll feel a little less puzzled. These are the 5 puzzle pieces we're going to be deciphering today: budget, internal reports, the annual report, the audited financial statements, and the 990. If you have any of these available for your organization, now would be a good time to go grab them and follow along. So let's jump in with our first puzzle piece, understanding budgets. What, when, why, and how. Dave Ramsey says that a budget is telling your money where to go instead of wondering where it went. We budget for a number of reasons. Sometimes it's required by agencies or grant makers. Donors want to know that you budget and that you budget well. If there's growth potential for your organization, there's often funding opportunities that are tied to your budgeting skills. It's good practice to be accountable to your board and the public. What do we budget? We budget operating expenses and revenue. We often budget our own department's revenue and expenses. We budget for projects, we budget for events, and if you're a grant recipient, sometimes you even have to budget for time and effort. When do we budget? Well, the best time to budget is before your project or event or before your new fiscal year begins. If you're a calendar year end, you probably should start looking at your budget by October and November. How should you budget? Well, let history be your guide. Take at least 2 years worth of actual financial data to start to begin your budget process for the following year. Taking a look at 2 prior years of historical information can help guide decisions that you'll make for the next year. You may not have all the answers, but it's a good foundation. Budgets also allow us to see how we're doing. Most financial reports you'll see report both a budget and actual just to see how well you're doing comparatively. Moving on to the second puzzle piece of internal financial reports, let's look at that same budget versus actual. This is a typical profit and loss or statement of activities, often accompanied by a balance sheet. But that's not the only internal financial report that's useful for your users. Here at the Community Foundation, we use a dashboard once a year that shows 5 years worth of historical key performance indicators. We also use a chart like this every quarter that we report to our board that lists our fund balances by fund type. Some key takeaways for this puzzle piece: don't assume that QuickBooks reports are always the answer. Tailor those reports to your audience and see what kind of information they would like to see on your organization. Seek out the help of a professional if you need help designing reports to fill their needs. And don't assume that they have to be audit worthy, because remember, this is just an internal eyes only. So how do you connect this puzzle piece to the budget that we just talked about? You'll always want to include budget on your internal financial reports. It's a good indicator of how you're doing. Moving on to the third puzzle piece, understanding the annual report. The purpose of an annual report for an organization is to highlight the accomplishments over the past year. It's meant to inspire readers, build trust, and thank the donors and supporters of your organization. It's often filled with colorful pages with pictures of people you serve or activities that you're performing. And there's usually a financial information page as well. The audience of your annual report are donors, first and foremost, the general public, clients and those you serve, and potential donors and grant makers, and even potential employees. Here's a couple of excerpts from the Community Foundation's 2020 annual report. On the left is a few visual pages for the DCNP program here at the Community Foundation. As you can see, it's filled with colorful pictures of some of the activities from DCNP, along with some language about what happened with DCNP over the year. On the right-hand side is an excerpt of financial information from the annual report. As you can see, it's just a few lines, and it makes sure to thank our donors in yet another place for the contributions that we received. It's good practice for nonprofits to post their annual report on their website. Check out the DuPage Habitat for Humanity website. They do a very good job of being transparent with their annual report. Now, how do you connect the annual report with the other two puzzle pieces? First, budgets are not typically reported in the annual report, only actual information. And actual information should look familiar because the information provided should be the same information that's distributed to your board or to your staff throughout the year. Next, number 4, understanding the audited financial statements. Now, many of you might get anxious when you hear the word audit, but there's really no need. In the state of Illinois, it's actually a requirement for most nonprofits that have contributions that exceed $300,000 to have an independent audit each year. A nonprofit can build its reputation for integrity, transparency, and professionalism by having this independent audit each year and making it available to stakeholders and to the public. It's also good for potential donors that want assurance that you're following the accepted standards. How do you connect the audited financial statements to the other puzzle pieces? Well, first of all, budgets are not necessarily reported in your audited financial statements. Again, this is only actual information. And again, it should look familiar to those internal reports, although it might differ because of the additional regulation and notes that are required in audited financials. And finally, our puzzle piece number 5 is the connecting piece. After you've taken your outside pieces and put those together, now you're going to connect them with the 990. The 990 is often referred to as a nonprofit's tax return, but as a tax-exempt organization, it's really meant to just be an informational return. It provides the IRS with an overview of activities, governance, and your financial information. The audience of the 990 is not just our friends at the IRS. Grant makers often will look at your 990 that are published publicly. Potential donors may look at what kind of organization you're running with the intention that they may be giving a gift. Potential employees may also look at your 990 for information regarding the operations of your organization and also information on board members and key salary members. The general public can look at your 990 because it is a public document, and of course our friends at the IRS. Here's a picture of the first page of the 990. These first few fields that are required are informational purposes only. And here's a summary of some of the financial information that's required. Now, this is only 2 pages of the typical 40-page document that's required each year. And it's required for organizations who have gross receipts over $200,000 or assets over $500,000. 990s are not required for political organizations or church or religious ones. It's good practice for nonprofits to also post their 990 on their website. Most nonprofits will post the 990 in their About section or financials. And if you check out Gigi's Playhouse, they're an organization that does this very well. So in conclusion, those are our 5 nonprofit puzzle pieces. I hope I've done a good job deciphering those for you, and if you have any further questions, please don't hesitate to reach out. Thank you.